President Trump's objective on this trip to Beijing was in part to persuade China to do more to rein in the nuclear program and the missile program of its client state, North Korea. But how well did the self-proclaimed master of the art of the deal do on his other main objective here, namely persuading China to do more to close its trade gap with America? Here's Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen.
Among the $250 billion in new trade agreements announced during President Trump's visit to Beijing are a deal for the China Energy Investment Corporation to pour $84 billion into West Virginia power projects and a 20% reduction in the value-added tax China places on imports of American distillers' dried grains. Among those unimpressed, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
Quite frankly, in the grand scheme of a $300 to $500 billion trade deficit, the things that have been achieved thus far are pretty small.
Candidate Trump vowed often to redress that deficit.
When I'm there, we turn it around, folks. We have the cards. We have a lot of power with China.
In Beijing, President Trump proved only marginally more conciliatory, saying he doesn't blame China, but rather his predecessors in the Oval Office who allowed the deficit to grow.
After all, who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens? I give China great credit.
Last year, the world's two largest economies traded an estimated $579 billion in goods. But last month, the imbalance grew by 12.2% over the year before. Rituals of American presidents' visits to China include an exchange of toasts between visitors and hosts and promises by the latter to expand market access for U.S. businesses and investors.
The investment and management environment for foreign enterprises, including those of the U.S., will be more open, more transparent, and more standardized.
But veteran China hands expressed skepticism that Beijing would do much to address the multiple factors that contribute to the imbalance.
I question whether the bilateral trade deficit is the biggest problem in the relationship. I'm far more worried about these other practices like compulsory technology transfer, lack of protection for intellectual property rights, subsidies to state-owned enterprises.
Candidate Trump also called China the greatest ever currency manipulator and promised repeatedly to designate Beijing as such. But within his first 90 days in office, President Trump rescinded that threat, telling the Wall Street Journal China had stopped the practice. Brett?
James Rosen in Washington. James, thanks.